Penny was captured on cell phone video back in 2023. There's that video. He's seen restraining Neely. He and others on the subway say Neely was acting erratically. Prosecutors say Penny used an unreasonable level of force, killing Neely. Penny's defense says he'd leapt into action facing a life-threatening situation. Here with us is attorney Erin Caro. Erin, good morning. So let's start with what went down in the courtroom. The judge allowing the prosecution to drop that manslaughter count, the first count. Yeah. What was the sticking point for them here?
Well, it's interesting. You would think that the defense would have been excited about this or see this as a small victory. But actually, inside the courtroom, the defense was objecting to this application by the prosecution, basically arguing that this is a novel application to be making when there's this lesser included charge that's very similar. Typically, the lesser included charge is actually very different. And so the dismissal of the main count is actually not quite as significant to the remaining charge. Here, the defense is saying, listen, we're worried about this possibility of a compromised verdict. Essentially, the idea that the jury is going to go back into the deliberation room and say to themselves, well, we couldn't do this big banner charge. We couldn't quite get over that difficult hurdle, but we got to do something here. So let's just do criminally negligent homicide. That's what the defense is worried about right now. And they've already indicated that if there's a conviction on that count, they will take appeal.
So I'm curious here, Erin, how could what happened on Friday with the first charge being dropped ultimately influence how the jury approaches the second charge come Monday when court resumes?
Well, again, this is going to go back to, what has the jury been struggling with inside the courtroom? Are they struggling with the possibility that there was a justification for Mr. Penny's actions? Are they struggling with the issue of causation? What actually caused Mr. Neely's death? I mean, we know that they asked to see the transcript from the testimony of the medical examiner with respect to her decision to issue a death certificate before seeing the toxicology reports. So we know that the jury is struggling on a few different fronts here, but what we don't know is the jury reflective of how we as the public at large are feeling about this case? Is there a feeling that we've all been there in this situation on the subway as New Yorkers and can understand and actually hope that someone like Mr. Penny would intervene in a situation like this? Or do we believe that the jury or that the actions were just excessive? And I think that the jury's struggling with this, even on a lesser charge like criminally negligent homicide. The question's going to be, did Mr. Penny deviate from a reasonable standard here? Was what he did unreasonable under the circumstances? And I'm not sure how the New York jurors are going to feel about this.
Yeah, this is a complicated case, especially when it comes to the jurors. Like you mentioned, a lot of them are Manhattanites. They take the subway every day. I'm sure they're putting themselves in that position. Based on what we've seen in court, Erin, and heard from the jury thus far, how do you expect these deliberations to go? I know that's a tough question. You don't have a crystal ball, but from your experience, what do you think?
I wish I had a crystal ball. And I think everybody would love to know precisely what they're struggling with inside that jury room. We know they're struggling, and we don't know what that means exactly yet. But, I think the defendant's concern here is valid. There's a real concern, and I hate to use this phrase, but there is a concern that the jury is going to try to split the baby here and perceive the conviction of a criminal for criminally negligent homicide as sort of giving credence to this tragic loss of life. Mr. Neely was unarmed, and albeit he was erratic and threatening people on the subway, but he was unarmed and wasn't likely to actually cause any danger. And I think the jury might feel like his life needs to be given some justice. But the flip side is, if you're a New Yorker, you've been there, and it's really difficult to, you hope that there would be someone like Mr. Penny who's going to intervene when things escalate. And the question is, was this force excessive? And they're going to have to consider that option. And they're also going to have to consider whether there's enough evidence to actually establish that his actions are what caused Mr. Neely's death.
Erin, I have about 30 seconds left, but I want to quickly ask you, the defense is saying a juror may have spoken to the media. Again, very quickly, how would that affect the case?
I didn't hear this, actually. This is news to me, but this could be an issue, potential, or this actually could be a good thing for the defense, a potentially appealable issue down the road. So, we'll have to wait and see how that actually unfolds.
All right, Erin Caro, really appreciate the context. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And we're Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.